Mic check real quick. Make sure everything is good to go. Slapshot back on top in practice. Everything is in fact good to go. Welcome in, guys. Thank you for tuning in, especially early. So we are looking to get going with what may be one of the more highly contended qualifying sessions of the season. It definitely is going to matter a lot more in terms of qualifying, as you've got to get out front quick if you want to stay out front. Passing here, a little hard, a little difficult, not many opportunities to do so. Can try and maybe catch somebody out at Spoon or 130R, or maybe late braking into turn 1, but it is not very easy to do. Currently, Slapshot is on pole. Salinas in the McLaren, just 68 thousandths of a second away from pole. And Salinas, if he's able to get on pole, would be a very big achievement for him. Slapshot, at least in terms of pace, is looking like he's got a possibility of doing the double. Winning last weekend, finally some quenching the thirst after a long drought, a long winless streak, and a long podiumless streak from Slapshot and Slap Your Mom Racing. They almost had the 1-2 last weekend. Your Mom, the teammate, was not quite able to get up there, but Slapshot seeming to be finding a return to form. First driver into the sub 2 minute range, and definitely carrying some pace here in practice. Now in AM, things are a bit different. Silva, who, let me check the standings. Give me just a moment, I will check the standings real quick. The AM standings, it is Silva in P2. That's what I was wondering. Silva P2, currently Brother Elmo in P1 in those championship standings, and might be looking at a promotion is Elmo. Shuby in P3. Zoanam in P4, Schwartz in P5. Still a decent fight for the championship. Things have not spread out too much, and in the Pro Championship, sorry, that was drop races included for the AM field. Silva is actually down in 6th. It's actually Elmo, Shuby, and Schwartz. Shuby and Schwartz just 1 point away from each other, P2 and P3 in AM. Elmo 69 points. Far out ahead in AM. Not too far though, it's only a couple of positions, or a position in between the two there. Legion, I don't think so. But it's a possibility. Saying things may change last minute, but I have not put it on the calendar. And overall, it is a very tight championship fight between Ormiston, Ouroboros, and Prieto. Ormiston just consistent finishes. I don't think he's won a race this year, but he has just been consistently there towards the top, and if you can just consistently score points, you can win championships that way. And Ormiston just looking for more consistent finishes, making sure that he finishes. Typically not one for mistakes, but again, needing a bit of a return to form. Was your Season 3 champion, but did not quite have a back-to-back run in Season 4. And not a very strong season for Ormiston, especially coming off of the championship season. And now maybe applying a bit more pressure this season to find a bit more of a run towards the top. Same thing for Prieto, your previous champion. 1 hour opening round at Coda. Did not have such a good result last week at Hungaroring. Looking for a bit of a better result here in the GTR at home, back in the Dragon's Lair. Prieto will see if he can take Godzilla to the top here at Suzuka. But at least in terms of pace, practice-wise, he's got a large gap to cover. Currently P13 over a second off of that pole position lap set by Slapshot. Schwartz, one of your AM contenders for the championship. Definitely going to be one to watch throughout the season. Has been close on many occasions in getting that AM championship win. Just has not been able to completely pull the season together. Could be another good run for him this season. Again, that AM championship fight, as well as the Pro Championship. Top three, very, very close. Close enough to where the events of this round tonight could be a factor in swapping positions in those championship battles. Sylph making a return in the MSA 2 slow joint effort team with Nate. Up to P2. And the only driver to go into the sub-twos there with Slapshot. Slapshot still at the top of the time table with a 59.897. Sylph has a 59.910, and if you are in the Twitch chat and you would like to watch the timing in real time, go ahead and use !timing, the command in the Twitch chat, and it will pull up the link to the live timing so you can keep up with the action all throughout practice and especially qualifying and on into the race. If you do use that timing command, just click the drop down and go to the GFR race server, and you'll be able to keep up with all of the live timing throughout the sessions. And you can use that timing website for any servers that you may be in that are associated with Simbot. 59.673, knocking a ton of time off the top, as Sylph now goes fastest in the Mustang. Figured it was only a matter of time before a Mustang was at the front. And Sylph, a very, 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 very quick driver. currently almost put a quarter of a second between himself and the previous race winner. Silth qualified well in the preseason race at Oulton Park, but got caught up in an early incident and went very far down the order and was not quite able to work his way back up to the front. Manelli in the Aston Martin, and had been a multi-time contender for the championship. I believe he's a multi-time runner-up in the AM championship, just has not been able to put it all together and get back to the top, and is now currently a good ways off of that fight for the AM championship this season. Not impossible for him, but it is going to be a bit harder than it had been in previous seasons. He really needs to have some consistent runs well on into the midseason. This is a console-only league. There are a few drivers that race on PC that are in this league, but all of the GoFAST racing, actual racing, is only done on console Zero Corsa Competizione, but they do have teams that they send off to events on iRacing and such. Ouroboros in the Animus Racing Ferrari. I believe he's going to abandon this lap. And Salinas was there in P2, has now had the Slap Your Mom Racing duo as your mom in the McLaren with a bit of a return to form. Now putting some space between himself and the teammate, and up there contending with that 59.673 set by Silth. And what kind of grid do we have tonight? Almost 50 drivers on the grid, 47 as we head into qualifying. We continue to match the numbers of the previous record-setting season. But at the season opener at Circuit of the Americas, we did in fact hit that 50 car mark at the green flag. Not all 50 finished, but we did have 50 cars take the field. Right along board with your mom, who is currently looking for a faster lap. We'll see if he lays it out all on the table or if he will be standing by and just taking it right up to the line, but not quite logging the lap, as a bit of superstition may say you don't want to waste your good laps early. And again, thank you all for tuning in. If you are not following, we are trying to get back to that 610 follower mark. And looking to make a push to 700. And it's faster for your mom. Goes P1 fastest at the end of practice. I don't think there will quite be anyone able to disrupt that run there. We do have the 334 of Peach. Don't see him there yet. There he is. Coming out of the final corner and across the line. Currently P12. And we'll stay there as we are now getting started with our AM qualifying. And Schwartz at the front of the pit lane will be the first out with the Mustang Motorsports team. Schwartz and Zoenom, the two drivers there, both drivers with a fair chance at the AM Championship as of now. And now one of the best tracks for qualifying, and the show that has been GoFAST qualifying will begin. Schwartz will be the first out. He will set the pace for the AM field shortly. And again, if you're just sitting in the car from the pro field and you'd like to keep up with the live timing of the AM practice session or throughout the pro qualifying session, sorry, not the AM practice session, the AM qualifying, use the ! timing command in the Twitch chat. That will pull up the link to the live timing. Well, Zero Aspect, if you join the GoFAST Racing Discord server, I guarantee you that there is going to be some people in there that can direct you the right way. That link should be popping up in the Twitch chat shortly. And also thank you for hanging out with us tonight. Into the very scary 130R goes Schwartz. He will chuck the Mustang in. Will run a touch wide. I think that may have just barely stayed valid though. And now into the chicane out of the final corner to get started with his first flying lap of the session. Not going to be too many flying laps, a longer lap here. About 2 minutes will be a flying lap, but if you count time it takes to get out of the pit lane and around at slower pace, you're really only going to get 4 opportunities at a flying lap. Very tricky turn 1, late apex. Try and hang it out as wide as possible, as long as possible before you cut back in, and then carry as much speed as possible through the tire eaters that are the S's. Very, very easy to overheat those tires, and that's going to be an invalidation for Schwartz there. How's it going, Marvy? And I believe, well, I do believe that is still going to be an invalidation. We'll hop on board with the teammate of Zoanam. And if the marching ants are correct, that blue dot means that he has invalidated that lap and will not be able to bring that time to the fold. So we'll ride on board with Zoanam, who has had a good run in AM this season. Very comfortable in the Porsche, a real-life Porsche driver. So he's got a couple classic Porsches that we are all so jealous of. Find him in the Twitch chat, and he will gladly, or not in the Twitch chat, in the Discord chat, and he will gladly share pictures of those Porsche cars with you, as he does go a bit wide through Spoon Curve, and that is going to be, that is the 11 behind. Next, I believe it's the 11, could be. Nope, yes it is. It's the 11 of Shuby, and Shuby may be the driver to set the pace in the AM field. Bit deep into the chicane though, and that may complicate things. Across the line though, Rowden actually the first to set a time for the field. Shuby will go fastest though, 2:01.572. Scoliosis goes P2. Chandler P3 in the Mercedes. Chandler possibly looking for a good run tonight in AM. Silva, the round 1 AM race winner, currently P2 in the McLaren. Don't believe that Silva was here with us last week at Hungaroring, but looking for a good result tonight. Another win would put Silva pretty much back directly in that fight for the AM Championship. If you do include those drop races, that would put Silva well into the lead if he can pull off another win tonight. Currently on pole, it is Shuby in the Mustang. Silva P2, Peachy P3, a little over halfway through this AM qualifying session. The AM drivers do have the entire field to themselves. Thank you for the follow, Johnny. Or beyond Johnny, I should say. The AM drivers do have the entire track to themselves. The pro drivers will start to queue at the end of the pit lane. Schwartz with the Mustang Motorsports Mustang. And definitely wants that run for the championship this season in AM and get that promotion up to pro. Shuby, 0.02 of a second, just slower than Schwartz, but that is no time to find. It also means that Schwartz needs to definitely find just an inkling of time to grow that margin there. Dreadlock Jake, thank you for the follow as well. We got back to that 610. Manelli, the driver plagued by woes in the championship. Currently P4 as Silva goes fastest, 2:01.135 for the McLaren driver, and I believe a first timer here with GoFAST Racing this season. And a large margin at that. Very close to being the first and only AM driver into the sub 2:01s, but our pro field will have times well into the sub 2-minute mark. Speaking of that pro field, let's take a look at the pro field, and there are a couple that have queued at the end of the pit lane. They will be ready to go when the clock strikes 10. It is still a Silva on top, but we'll see if anybody will be able to contend. Devin Lingard, who has really started to have a come to form, not a return to form, but a come to form. Still yet to set a time, but I can't imagine whatever time he does set, it will be a competitive time at that. The 55 of Zoanam across the line. Looking for some improvement. I don't think he got it there. Also has Shuby behind. Schwartz just coming through the S's. Where is Manelli? Just coming out of turn 1. Zoanam is going to abandon the lap. This is going to be a final lap for anybody who has just crossed the line. Silva on top. We'll see if he finds any improvement on this lap. We'll have some more time to try and improve, and we've got a tie. Schwartz and Scoliosis, the Mustang and the BMW, both 110 thousandths of a second behind both drivers with a 2:01.245. Silva still at the front. Sierra wanting to throw a wrench in that party. And that is going to be an into Sierra's qualifying. Currently P2, a very good run for Sierra. No longer in the Lexus. The 970 of Clint across the line will get one more opportunity should he choose to take it. And the 30, not quite sure who is in the 30. I think there may be a number discrepancy there as our pro field does take to the track. I believe that may be Peach or Ormiston that is heading that field. It looks to be Peach, but Ormiston a little bit further ahead. Quick look at our AM field. Rowden currently P20. looking to find some improvement, and does not. Will stay P20. The 555 of Manelli into the pit lane, not going to improve. I believe Scoliosis not doing the same. Across the line for the BMW driver. Does not break the tie, stays P4. Schwartz with a 2:00.467 with a lot of work for the rest of the AM field to do. Kiss Army just up ahead, not improving on that lap. Silva finding some improvement, but nowhere near enough. And Silva will start P2 at best. There are still a few AM drivers to come across the line. Devin Lingard in the 33 Ferrari, currently P15. Does he find any improvement? Up to P14. The 333 of Cave will come into the pit lane. What about the 424 of James Earl Jones in the Lexus? Another driver back in their home manufacturer's country. Currently P9 is James Earl Jones, and we do kind of lose him there, but I think he stayed P9. I think we actually completely lost James Earl Jones there. Hopefully he will be able to rejoin the session. And 48 drivers on the grid. But our AM field has been set. It is Ormiston leading the pro charge. And is that the Ferrari of Ouroboros immediately behind? I do believe it is. I'll throw us on with Ormiston while we read off the AM qualifying results. It is Schwartz in P1 with a 2:04.67. Very, very quick time. The only of the AM drivers to go into the sub 2:01s. Silva just 0.005 of a second outside of that club as well. Schwartz, Silva, Scoliosis, Sierra, Leclerc, Manelli, Chandler, Shuby, Nightwalker, Kiss Army, Peachy, Zoanam, Lingard, Clint, Christian B, Bradzilla, Cabe, Profit, Rowden. That will be your field, and James Earl Jones. Lynch actually in P21. James Earl Jones will likely be starting from the back of the grid, but I'm not exactly sure. About 3 more laps left. And Ormiston, carrying too much speed, had to abandon it on the brakes. Will not set the lap for the field to try and beat here. Ouroboros may be the next in line to do so. Just catching a glimpse of Aramich in the Aston Martin behind. Aramich, one of those drivers who is really needing a good result this season, has not had the start to the season that he would have been looking for. And as of right now, it is still a good looking season for Animus Racing. What is the time for Ouroboros? It's a 1:59.980 for the Ferrari driver. Aramich goes 4th fastest. Salinas in the McLaren just 0.02 of a second slower. And close margins is what we are all about here in GoFAST Racing. We have had multiple lap times within thousandths of a second of each other. We've had multiple lap times this session alone that have been the exact same lap. Tricks it, the team BDK Mod McLaren. Currently P3. Sylph, who we saw go fastest in practice, currently P4 with some time yet to find, and I know that there is still time to be found out there on track. We will be well into the 159s. Your mom in the McLaren with Slapshot, the teammate, just behind. Slapshot, you may remember your previous race winner, as Giant goes 3rd. And And it is a McLaren party at the front of the field. Your top three separated by less than a quarter of a tenth of a second. Very tight margins here at Suzuka. Still a good bit of our pro field yet to qualify. Slapshot, Ormiston, Marvey, Yakashokas in the Aston Martin as well. Iceberg, Phoenix Gecko, a newcomer but has a lot of speed, and Guzman as well, a battle-tested GoFAST racing driver. We'll see if there's any improvement by Ouroboros on this lap. 1:59.980, the time to beat, does not beat his own time. Salinas still P2, Giant P3, Prieto in the GTR Godzilla, looking to destroy countryside of Japan once again. Goes fastest and by almost a quarter of a second. Prieto not playing around as Godzilla. Maybe it's just the fact that that GTR has not been able to breathe true, purified Japanese dragon breath air. But it does not need much. It does not mean much, as Sylph does find the top spot once again. 1:59.580. Meaning there is a lot of work still to do for the rest of those drivers out on track, and it is busy in pro qualifying. Your mom in the McLaren goes second fastest, just a clean 10th behind a Sylph. Slapshot goes P3. The Slap Your Mom Racing teammates in the McLarens definitely wanting to go for that 1-2 again this season. Sylph, it's going to be a hard wall to try and get through though. But he is done, is not going to be improving. And Sylph said, that is all I've got. That's all, folks, and no more. The 91 of Phoenix Gecko across the line, still trying to find this lap, maybe able to get it this time. We have seen Phoenix Gecko very high up the order. Just having a bit of trouble here at Suzuka. Still has a couple more opportunities for a lap. Your top 7, ladies and gentlemen, by less than a quarter of a second. And I have a feeling this is going to expand more so into your top 10. Prieto did have that pole position by quite a lot. Now has 4 cars between himself and Sylph, as our field is gearing up. Brute going for one final flying lap, getting it as slow as possible and as much of a launch out of the final corner as he can get. And we'll go for one final flying lap. The 27 of Yakashokas needing a good lap here. Currently P46, goes up to P31 in the Aston Martin. And a bit of a slide, that is going to bring it into Yakashokas' qualifying session there. Your mom will have one more flying lap. Same thing with the 416 teammate of Slapshot. Two McLarens just staying outside of each other's dirty air. Qualifying is coming to an end. Langley currently P15, and the furthest back pro driver to not be behind any AM drivers. Now that could be a bit of a blessing. Don't want to get caught up in any AM fights for position. The 21 of Platypus will be our first driver to not cross the line with any time left, and that will bring it into his qualifying. P23 will be where he stands. The number 9 of Aramich in the Aston Martin across the line, currently P10. Does he find any improvement? Finds P9, not what he was looking for. What about Prieto? finds pole 5.9545, 35 thousandths of a second quicker than Prieto. And what about the teammate of Trixit? I saw just behind goes P13. The Mercedes of Platypus P21. I believe that may have been the teammate in the Aston Martin Iceberg P14. The 15 of Ricky Bobby just up ahead and goes into the pit lane. Will it be a disruptor from your mom? Will they be able to get back on the front row, holding tight to the inside, trying to find as much speed as he can? And it is a disruptor. What about for Slapshot? Is it the Slap Your Mom Racing 1-2? And it will not be. Slapshot unable to bring a time to be right there with his teammate, but it is your mom on pole in the McLaren. And I thought we were going to be praising Godzilla, but no, it is the McLaren Beast that will take the top spot. 91 of Phoenix Gecko has one more opportunity at this lap. Does he have it? Just needs to be valid and will move himself very far up the grid. Goes P16, and that will bring an end to our qualifying session. Your starting grid for the race, if it wants to be nice to me. Your mom P1, Prieto P2, Sylph P3, and that is a hell of a fight for the top spot right there. Those top four, even your top five, all previous race winners. Tons of skill across all of them, all through your top 10, all through your top 20. There are drivers who have won races, drivers that have been on the podium, and drivers that have qualified on pole. There is a lot of talent up there. Your mom P1, Prieto, Sylph, Ouroboros, Slapshot, Giant, Brute, Griffith, Aramich, Salinas, Ormiston, Goose, Trixit, Iceberg, Adrian, Phoenix, Gecko, Langley, Marvy, Schwartz, Yellow Lemon, Ricky Bobby, Peach, Nate, Silva, Platypus, Scoliosis, Sierra, Leclerc, Manelli, Francisco, Chandler, Yakashokus, Dingham, Shuby, James Earl Jones, Nightwalker, Kiss Army, Peachy, Zoanam, Lingard, Clint, Christian B, Bradzilla, Cabe, Prophet, Rowden, Lynch, and Guzman. 48 drivers to take the green flag here with GoFAST Racing, and these are average numbers that we see in this season. This is not any sort of outlier. We had 50 at our season opener at Circuit of the Americas earlier this season, and we will have that 50 once again. About 2 minutes away from our green flag, and we will get started with the formation lap. Then we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. And welcome back. Engines are fired, and we are about to get rolling with this formation lap. Thank you all for tuning in. We are just a couple minutes away from green flag, and your mom in the McLaren will get us rolling. Now, this is going to be not the easiest start to a race that any of these drivers have ever seen. It is a very tricky turn one. Things can go very wrong. There is going to be a lot of tire warming, a lot of brake warming. You'll see weaving and dragging the brakes all throughout the field. This little bit of a squeal that you're hearing is your mom dragging the brakes here, trying to get that temperature up early. But it is going to get tight into that turn one apex, and you have to pretty much solidify your position as you come into the S's section, as there is really nowhere to go once you come into the S's. You've got the car in front of you, and unless they make a mistake, there's really not much going to be happening in terms of swap of position. You can try to go door to door through the S's, but it is not the best idea. Very quickly things can go south when you try to do that. The double left-handers that bring you into the section where the track crosses over itself under the bridge. Degner 1 and 2 before you come into the uphill hairpin. This is going to be a very hotly contested part of track. Very easy to push somebody just a touch wide. Don't have to actually push them, but just making your presence known on track makes it very, very hard for somebody to try and turn through, as they can't necessarily drive through you. So if you're able to get a nose at the inside at the hairpin, you may just be able to pull off the move. You're going to want to be inside for spoon curve. We saw a lot of late braking into spoon, a lot of braking way too late, but also very tricky. You can lose the car if you're trying to carry a bit more speed than you need, especially on those rear tires. Over-rotate the car while you're on the brakes, and you will be backwards and going off into the shadow realm. Coming around spoon, and then we have the longest straight section of the track. This is the run out of spoon into 130R. And 130R is a very, very tricky, you can call it a left-hander, but it's more so like throwing something at the wall and hoping it sticks. You just gotta hope that you either downshift right if your car has a downshift in it, if you lift off in the right spot, if you turn in at the right spot. You just have to get it absolutely perfect. You can gain a lot of time on the car ahead if you get it better than the car ahead, but you can lose a lot more time if you get it wrong. And it's definitely not somewhere that you're going to want to go through side by side. As we come into the Casio chicane, we are lined up 2 by 2, 48 cars back. It's going to be 24 rows. There may still be cars trying to come out of the chicane when we get rolling. It's your mom on the inside, Prieto on the outside, Silth with the possibility of an overtake into turn 1. Ouroboros, the teammate, lined up right behind his previous championship winning teammate. As we slowly approach the line, we are ready to take the green flag here in round 3 of GoFAST Racing Season 5. Ouroboros already has a nose at the inside of the teammate and still trying to make it out of the final corner, the back of the grid. And as we roar into turn 1, it is the battle of the Titans. Prieto and your mom into turn 1, going to be getting caught out a little bit is Prieto. And Silth will move up into P2, a bit further behind. They're 2 by 2 trying to jostle for position. They'll stay 2 by 2 through the S's. And who is that gets it a bit wrong and tricks it off and around in the S's, and is now going to have to wait and be relegated all the way to the back of the grid as the field goes on by. Your mom and Silth at the front of the field. Slapshot just kind of hanging idly behind. And your mom now just has the not so easy task of keeping Silth behind. A bit further behind everything. Just staying close. Who is that off and around? It looked like the 334 of Peach, and it is. Not good there, and I believe that may also be the Ferrari of Kiss Army there as well. And yes, it was Peach and Kiss Army both around there at the hairpin. Not a very good spot to go off. You don't want to go off anywhere, but definitely not there. The 111 also having a bit of trouble. The 111 of Kiss Army around, just trying to get it rejoined back on the track, and your mom will lead the first lap of the race. Your mom, Silth, and Prieto, but Prieto and Ouroboros, the two teammates not far apart from each other. They may be working together a little bit throughout this race. And caught off the line is Aramich. He is not going to ride along in the slipstream. And contact, as both of the Team BDK mod drivers involved in contact, and they both go around and collect. Ormiston involved in that, Salinas involved. 3 of your front runners knocked out early. And almost more contact as Ormiston just did not find the window, was not able to get rejoined back on the track, and will be relegated to the back of the field. Drama early on. Those who were already locked into this championship, at least into the fight early, are faring just fine. That is not going to be the kind of result that the Team BDK mod drivers would be looking for today. They've got a long way to go to try and scrape together any sort of result if they want to stay in this championship fight. Have a battle here between Phoenix and Iceberg. At least they were close together. Might be Phoenix and Adrian, but Adrian in the Porsche is now much further ahead. And the battle up front, far from over, and I believe I see a battle back here between Ouroboros and Giant. Giant in the McLaren, definitely carrying some speed this round. Brute in the Aston Martin as well. Your top 10 or your top 7 starting to stretch away from the rest of the field. Things may be getting a bit dicey up towards the front. Your mom now having to go defensive into turn 1. He will not be able to carry anywhere near as much speed around the outside. Silth wants to get alongside. Your mom covers the move off though. And Silth knows that he's got to try and get this move done early while he's still got the tires to do so. Does not want to wait and have to try and do something in the pit lane. Mistakes can happen when you are forced into a situation like that. A bit more rotation from the mid-engine McLaren 720S GT3. Silth has the top end. He's got the power. He's got the muscle. Just needs to try and line this move up right. His best overtaking opportunity will be coming into 130R off the back straight out of Spoon, or maybe into the late braking zones, as we see him get right up onto the rear. McLaren able to get on the power a little bit earlier. Iceberg and Adrian. Adrian definitely carrying a bit of speed and has one position from getting himself into the top 10 if he can get past the Mercedes of Iceberg. Yolo, Lemon, and Aramich. Locked in battle. Aramich, at least seemingly didn't get caught up too bad in that incident earlier. Battle for the lead continues. At some point, Silth will get close enough to go for this move on the brakes. And things are stacking up. Aramich, Platypus, and Yolo Lemon in the McLaren up ahead. Just getting very, very tight between. Aramich pretty much getting pushed through the chicane by Platypus. Again, defensive between your mom and Silth. Things just not quite going in the way of Silth, but the opportunity is getting closer. Pressure cooker, as they call it. Eventually that pressure has to be released in one way or another. It's either a mistake or one driver losing speed. A bit further behind, Ouroboros in the Ferrari, still being hounded by the McLaren of Giant, who has the fastest lap of the race now. And Giant all over the rear bumper of the Ferrari of Ouroboros. Yolo Lemon with Aramich still behind, as Aramich has now got a long way to go to try and regain some positions after that incident a couple laps ago. Checking in with the AM field, Schwartz is leading in AM, as expected with his pace. Silva P2, Shuby in P3, and it's a bit tighter the further back they go. Shuby under attack from the Ferrari of Nightwalker. Lingard has Leclerc in the Ferrari behind as well. As they come out of Spoon one more time, this top five, they are not losing each other. Silth still applying the pressure behind, and that Mustang in the slipstream able to close up right onto the rear of the McLaren. Will Silth be close enough for the move on the brakes this time? No, he will not. And Prieto sitting idly behind. Should anything happen between these two, ready to pick up the pieces. However they fall. Mustang not getting as good of a run that time. And Mom not having to go quite as defensive into turn one this time. And that will allow him to maybe stretch the pace out a little bit, or is Silth just trying to line up the move at a different section of the track? Gap between Ouroboros and Giant grew a little bit on that previous sector, and now Giant maybe starting to fall backwards into the clutches of Slapshot. Phoenix Gecko overtaking the McLaren of Yolo Lemon. And I believe Aramich finally getting past that group as well. Currently P14. Incident with the 700 of Rowden. And off and into the wall of the outside. He's got a bit of damage on that Mustang. I think he had some trouble getting it refired. Battle here for P28 between Zoanam and Manelli. Manelli off into the grass. Manelli and Guzman side by side into Degner 1 and 2. Guzman going the long way around the outside. And now Ormiston, who is having to try and hard charge his way through the field. And did not go into the pit lane either. Now has to try and slice his way through this AM battle as well. And Silth continuing on, but Silth that time getting it a bit wrong through 130R. And again, your mom starts to grow the gap to Silth. We'll see if it falls this time. This time now, your mom a bit more estranged, as maybe Silth got the better run that time and thought he could relax. Was able to take the racing line on the previous lap, will not be able to do so on this lap, as Silth once again right on the rear. And this top 6, top 7 are not letting each other go whatsoever. Just a couple seconds between all of them. The gap between each of them, not anything greater than 3/4 of a second. They are all staying within slipstream range. Marvey and Langley battle for P12 here as they come into the S's. Aramich in P14 is also making his way back up through the order. May have a bit of trouble getting these positions away from these two. Adrian and Iceberg still with their little scrap for P10. And once again, just needing to keep tabs on this battle for the lead, as at any moment it could go one way or the other. Just don't want to miss it as they come into Spoon. Sylph getting a good rotation out of Spoon this time, and again, the acceleration by the McLaren shoots it out of the corner a bit faster, but no, Sylph is going to be well into the slipstream, and he will go alongside. They're going to try it side by side into 130R. Will Sylph be able to go the long way around the outside? Just barely cuts in ahead. I think that may have scared your mom there a little bit. He said he's got a family and children at home, and Prieto gets the double, or at least the double on your mom, as he loses double the spots, as Sylph will lead this lap and this race now, and Prieto moves up into P2. Giant behind, trying to break the toe, keep the Mustang of Griffith at bay. Mustang's very hard to keep behind. Thank you for the follow, Prozac. Harvey starting to pull away a little bit as Aramich is now applying the pressure on to Langley. The battle behind between Platypus and Phoenix Gecko continues on. Phoenix just continuing to hound him. Prieto moving backwards 2 spots, can't let the backwards momentum get to him though, needs to try and find some more pace. Regather his thoughts, regather the car. Maybe he's driven a little bit too much out of it early. We are about 6 minutes away from our first pit stops, possibly 10 minutes away depending on how long you were planning to stay out on your first set of tires. But now the gap beginning to develop as Sylph and Prieto will do battle as they come into and out of Spoon Curve. Prieto getting a much better rotation out of Spoon, but we'll see if he can hold on to the slipstream of the Mustang ahead. Aramich gets the old switcheroo on Langley and will move up into P13. And Silva, I wonder what has happened to Schwartz. Something has happened to Schwartz. I'm sure of exactly what it was. Schwartz is out of the lead in AM. I wonder if he maybe had a disconnection or something along those lines. Don't see him on the grid. And Silva is your AM leader with Shuby right behind. This may be a repeat in the kind of battle that we saw at the end of round 1 for AM. Salinas with damage comes into the pit lane to get his stop out of the way. And now Sylph starting to pull away from Prieto in the Nissan. Your mom in the McLaren P3 still trying to hold on to it though, as Ouroboros in the Ferrari now senses blood in the water and may be getting a bit of a second wind and fighting for this third place position. Yellow Lemon right up behind the MSA Too Slow joint driver of Nate P in the Mustang. Nate P's teammate is leading this race currently. This battle between your mom and Ouroboros may be heating up a bit quicker than we thought, but I don't think that your mom would be too keen on giving this position away. We'll see. Maybe it's on the guise of trying to lose as little time as possible. A bit of a poor run through the chicane. That may open the door for Ouroboros in the Ferrari as they come out of the final corner. Across the line and into the slipstream. Your mom now having to start to think defensively. Ouroboros not quite getting close enough to go for the move. Back behind between Aramich and I want to say that's Marvy, but it is not. That is, I believe, the lap traffic. I don't think it was Cave, but it was Manelli who has come into the pit lane and is now going to be off cycle. Leclerc into the pit lane as well. I knew I saw somebody down there who had gone into the pit lane. Mom, Ouroboros, Slapshot, Brute, Giant, now all the way back to Griffith, 6th through 8th. Now all in this group together. Kind of your leading pack if you don't count the top two of Sylph and Prieto. But these margins not necessarily increasing either. And they told me I said last season that Suzuka was an absolute snooze fest. Well, this time I can guarantee you it is not. We have had lots of drama here tonight at Suzuka. Your mom once again having to think about going defensive into 130R. Managing to hold on to the position. Prieto just managing to hold on to the gap to Sylph up ahead. Maybe we see some moves in the pit lane soon. Speaking of, I do believe we had one taker there. That is going to be the 221 of Giant. Your mom now very much having to go defensive, almost door to door into turn one. They will be door to door. Ouroboros now trying to position himself for the switcheroo. It's hard to make it stick as there's not much room to get the run before you are now consumed as you go into the S's. And once you are in the S's, you pretty much got to be happy with where you are for the time being. Brute got it a bit wrong there as they came into the S's. That is going to grow the gap, and also you got to think about it this way. Your mom, Slap Your Mom Racing, then Ouroboros, and then Slapshot also with Slap Your Mom Racing. Ouroboros is in a team sandwich, and neither of those two drivers are going to make things very easy for him. Leclerc getting blue flags as the leading field goes on by. Iceberg now punching upwards, was trying to punch down and keep the Porsche of Adrian behind. 30-second stop and go for the 221 of Platypus. Sorry, not Platypus, Giant. That's going to be a punch in the gut for Giant, as he was running very far up the order and had the fastest lap of the race at one point, but now things going the other way. Still in slipstream as they come into 130R, and your mom is getting a ton of screen time today, but he can't seem to find himself away from the battle. Things starting to heat up a bit more. Ouroboros getting a crazy run through the chicane. Don't know if that was the most legal line through, and now we do get some more pit stop takers. Slapshot and Brute both come into the pit lane. Wonder if that was maybe a last second move. And whoa, things getting a bit tight. Ouroboros wanted to come out of the pit, or wanted to go across the pit lane exit line, but I believe that was Kiss Army in the Ferrari that was just coming out of the pit lane. That could have been very bad, both for Ouroboros, your mom, and Kiss Army there. Yolo Lemon in the McLaren now coming into the pit lane as well. So we're starting to have some more takers. Still watching this battle for P3 though, your mom and Ouroboros. Now no one bothering them. And I would think that your mom and the McLaren would be coming into the pit lane next. Usually do see the Slap Your Mom teammates double stack into the pit lane, but not quite going to be the factor this time. Kiss Army and Leclerc with a battle here for P39. As Leclerc wants to go up the inside, will get it up the inside. And a nice clean overtake into the hairpin for Leclerc. Yolo Lemon off to Jackson, rolling out of the pit lane. Lingard in the pit lane. Yakashokis in as well. Brute has cleared the pit stop. What has happened to Slapshot, though? I think it has been a very poor run. No, I think the timing boards are just messing with me. I thought there was a lot of time lost there, but no. Brute did, at one point, come out ahead. Slapshot back ahead where he was. Do we see these two come into the pit lane? And Ouroboros has to be fighting against track limit penalties there. Silth, your race leader, comes in, and Ouroboros in the Ferrari comes in as well. Prieto will lead the lap, and your mom will resume back in P2, still needing to come into the pit lane now. The party has begun for the front runners. Ouroboros, Goose, Iceberg, Adrian, Marvy. Who else is coming in? Nate. It's an MSA double stack as a teammate is brought in. Silva and Shuby both come in. This is your battle for the AM lead. Watch these two as they come out of the pit lane, as it could be determining who is going to be leading this race when they exit pit lane. Nightwalker currently P3 in AM, coming into the pit lane as well. We have quite a large amount of the field currently in the pit lane. And a bit of an incident back behind the 333 of Cabe involved. The 55 of, sorry, not the 55 of Manelli, the 55 of Zoanam involved, and he will just cut across the track and get into the pit lane. Same thing with the 2 car that I see just ahead. Unsure of exactly who that is. It's a Ferrari in the pit lane, but it's not the one that I think I am looking at. So we will leave it for the time being. Battle here between Aramich and Langley. Aramich did get this position away, but I think Langley in the BMW now wants to try and fight it back. Silth out of the pit lane and back out on track. Ouroboros a bit of a ways behind. Slapshot not far behind though. Adrian and Marvy in battle. Silva and Shuby, this is your battle for the AM lead. So there is still quite a few battles out on track. Prieto and your mom both come into the pit lane. I think Rowden and the Mustang may have parked it for the night with that damage. Aramich in the Aston Martin comes in. Phoenix Gecko in the BMW. Platypus comes in as well. Ricky Bobby in the Porsche will come in. What about Francisco in the BMW? Stays out. Ormiston in the Mustang comes in. Had made his way, at least scored right now in P10. Trixit in the McLaren comes in as well. It's going to be a Smooth Crew double stack as Peach comes in. James Earl Jones just behind comes in as well. And we should see the Mercedes of Chandler come in. Yes, we will. The Aston Martin of Cabe not going to come in, will stay out. Prieto come back out of the pit lane just ahead. of your mom. And who gets a 30-second stop-and-go penalty for speeding? That is going to be the 700 Mustang of Rowden. Has to come back in, park it for a second, and then will be allowed back out on track. Sylph and your mom, at least they crossed the line not far apart from each other, but things are not going to quite stay that way. And just up ahead, that is Marvy battling with Iceberg and Adrian. Tight group of cars here. Iceberg in the Mercedes, now very much defensive against Marvy in the Aston Martin. That is going to allow Adrian to pull away. Griffith was your race leader, now comes in, will not stay your race leader. Sylph, just coming into Spoon, may want to watch that gap there. Prieto 3 seconds to Sylph right now, a long way to go. And traffic in between. This was Cabe and Slapshot that we saw at the previous line. Cabe will not technically be getting blue flags, but he is on the alternate strategy, knowing that he is staying out, does have to come back into the pit lane. The teammates, two Animus Racing drivers coming across the line, one behind the other, nose to tail. We'll see if they work together or if they try and fight each other for position here. They're going to fight each other, as Prieto does not want to give the position away to the teammate. As Prieto wants to fight and be the first driver in GoFAST Racing history to do the double. Langley comes out of the pit lane. Griffith came out, was scored P2, but I believe he will fall back down to about P7 or 8. He is really just behind Slapshot. Actually, no, he is just behind your mom. The 62 of Francisco gets a 30-second stop-and-go penalty for speeding in pit lane. Once again, we'll have to come back in, just as Rowden had. Yolo Lemon and Ricky Bobby, two teammates there. I don't think Ricky Bobby held up Yellow Lemon very much, as we can see they have swapped positions there. And what about for the Animus Racing teammates? Not showing any mercy to each other, that is for sure. I believe that may have been Dingham in the too slow BMW. Yes, it was Dingham. Down in the order right now, that was Sierra just behind. Silva back in the lead in AM. Shuby in P2 just a second back. Two teammates continuing to log laps together. Ouroboros is seemingly still trying to get past a teammate. Maybe it's the pressure that pushes them both to go faster. Definitely did not seem like they were racing like teammates there. Slapshot P4, Brute P5, and I think your mom may have had an incident in the pit lane as he has lost a couple positions. Currently P6, but Griffith in that Mustang looks to take that position away as they head into turn 1. Griffith getting a bit close to the rear quarter panel of your mom, but it's not going to be any contact there, which is good. Langley and Adrian now, as Adrian, well on the front foot, has been getting a lot of overtakes in this race. Now wants to go for one more against the BMW of Langley. See if Langley can hold on to the position, though. Does seem to be struggling a little bit, but that Porsche, I can tell you firsthand, is a bit of a beast to handle through the S's. It will rotate like a monster, but it will also wear those rear tires out. Adrian driving that Porsche really has to get everything he can out of this car early, otherwise there won't be much drive left towards the end of the stint. Prieto now using some traffic against the teammate as they come into Spoon. Slap shot with Brute behind. That gap starting to grow a little bit. Langley and Adrian continuing. Adrian now falling back a bit as they came out of the hairpin. Going to be under fire from Iceberg in the Mercedes. Ricky Bobby and Nate in battle here for P17, or they were at the previous timing line. Nate getting a big slide coming into Spoon, but it may have just been exactly what he needed. Helped rotate the car quite a lot. We may have a swap of position here as they come into 130R. If the Mustang can outrun the Porsche. Nate wants to try it a long way around the outside. Was a bit outside of the track limits. And now Nate slot in ahead. Adrian and Iceberg now getting the elbows out. Langley is going to love every minute of this as it's going to allow himself to open the gap. And Iceberg has some reinforcements coming. Platypus on the 21 Mercedes, not far behind. Just look for the similar livery. Does have the Aston Martin of Marvy in between the two of them though. Battle for your AM lead between Silva and Shuby is well on. Tricks it. Gets the front row seat, and I think we may just sit alongside and watch. Silva and Shuby, Mustang versus McLaren just up ahead, watching from the point of view of Trixit. In pretty much the weakest section of the track for the Mustang, you see the gap start to build. But as they come on to the front and back straights, that is going to be where the Mustang will gain a lot of its time, where it can really play to its strengths the best. Battle between Prieto and Ouroboros once again just continues on. Ouroboros really finding a unique line through the chicane. He gets a ton of speed, but I gotta wonder that he is right on the cusp of getting track limit warnings if he hasn't already got one. Sylph. As we will let these two battle it out into turn one. Your Mom and Griffith continuing on. No swap of position between the two. Sylph all on his own at the front. And no one to really contend. It's pretty much going to be looking for victory lane for the top spot on the podium as we round out the night. Ormiston down to P18, wants to get a spot from the teammate to the leader of Nate. Nate does go a bit wide and does know the kind of talent that is in the Mustang behind him, as Ormiston is pretty much pushing him through the S's. Just not quite able to find a way around just yet. What has happened behind? That was one of the Mustangs. I'm sure exactly which one that was. It wasn't Shuby, but I think it was the teammate to Shuby, or no, it was not. It was Lynch in the Joyride racing. Mustang went around at Degner 2. Luckily did not collect anyone. Marvy and Platypus battling hard into Spoon. They'll be side by side on the brakes, and there's a touch of contact in between. Platypus will go around. Marvy will slow down and wants to give that position back. And Platypus finds an opening in the track to get pointed the right direction, but will lose a lot of track position. Goose in the BMW and Aramich in the Aston Martin. All on each other there. Goose does manage to open up the gap though. Prieto and Ouroboros just continuing to run with each other. They were battling each other very hard, but I think they may have realized how much time that has lost Prieto and really locked this one away for Silth. But we'll see how hard they continue to battle between each other. And what has happened to Shuby seems to have been a mistake. Silva a long ways ahead, and Nightwalker now finds himself in second in the AM fight tonight. Christian B currently in P4. A lot of our AM field has really separated themselves from each other. Potential for a battle here between Manelli and Bradzilla though. If Bradzilla can get close enough. And Ricky Bobby going at it once again as they come into Spoon. Ricky Bobby again in the Porsche. Nate really eyeing that slide as they come around. Spoon, the slide does help rotate the car, but it is definitely not going to be good for the tires. I think he may have actually laid rubber down coming out of Spoon. Wants to send the nose up the inside of the 130R, but is not quite going to be able to do so. The Mustang really does have that top speed advantage. Ricky Bobby getting a bit of slipstream from, I believe that may have been Lynch. Getting lapped there. Griffith still trying to catch up to your mom's Slapshot just outside the podium spots, 1.7 seconds away from Ouroboros in P3. Just in eyesight, but just outside of range. Still good points for Slapshot, the previous champion. Not the reigning champion, but is a previous champion. Adrian finding his way around Sierra. And that is going to open up the gap just a bit to Iceberg behind. But no, Adrian almost gets it all wrong. Those tires are now going to be very, very warm and now extremely defensive coming out of Spoon and up the long straight to 130R. Porsche, a sitting duck, now has no momentum. Does Iceberg get the position? They'll go side by side around. I think Adrian may have had to concede the position, but will he try and take it back on the brakes? Side by side they go again into the chicane. Iceberg this time forced to go very far to the inside. Adrian manages to hold on to the position, but what about those rear tires? They're going to be quite warm. We'll see if they've cooled off in the time that they had down the straight. Those tires on that Porsche, the main limiting factor of driving such a car. Slapshot with Brute closing in behind. Your Mom has Griffith closing in behind as well. It's full-on defense for the Slap Your Mom Racing McLaren drivers. It is nothing but a nice evening drive for Silth in the MSA 2 Slow Ford Mustang GT3. Just pulling away at the front. Bit of a different story for Slapshot though. Has Brute in the Aston Martin, and these two have really been nose to tail on each other the entirety of this race. Hoping all the work that he has put in will culminate to the position that he is looking for at the end. Will be 2 to go at the line. Still nose to tail, they run Slapshot and Brute. This group of 4 may make things a bit exciting as we head into the final laps of this race. Slapshot really having to go defensive side by side again. Now this is going to open the door for your mom. Brute this time in the Slap Your Mom Racing sandwich. And now your mom will try and maybe apply some pressure as the door has begun to open. Not quite wide enough for your mom to walk through. We'll see that one in the chat later. But the overtake, not quite there yet. Goose P8, Aramich P9, and the number 9. I feel like things are good there, shouldn't change. Maybe it is all the Drive to Survive episodes that Aramich has been watching that's keeping him off the podium. Will we get a battle between these two up at the front, or is it just going to be more of the same? Speaking of that battle though, does Brute use all the tires and speed that he has left in the car here at the end of this race? We're about to go on to the final lap, white flag, as Silth did everything he needed to. The car is absolutely pristine. Doesn't even seem to be any rubber residue on that Mustang. But out of the final corner and across the line to start the final lap of this race, Silth will be leading. Silva, your AM leader. Nightwalker in P2. Shuby down in P3. A bit further behind. And was fighting for that lead, but things just not quite gone his way. But still will be some good points in the AM class for Shuby. Yakashokas and Giant in a battle here for P27. See if Giant can get a move done there. Ormiston up to P15, or contending for P15. Not quite close enough to go for the move into turn 1. I can tell he definitely wanted to. Things now once again getting a bit more exciting for Brute behind. The gap has grown to Slapshot, but now Brute, as your mom likely wants to finish alongside his teammate. There are close cars all over the track. We are definitely going to have some races to the line. And at the very last moment, Salinas gets a drive-through penalty for track limits. Just needed to hold on a little bit longer. That'll bump him down quite a few positions. Sorry for the cutaway. Silth will win this race. We'll take the checkered flag. Prieto P2, Ouroboros P3. Slapshot will bring P4, Brute P5. And contact between your mom and Griffith P6 and 7. What about Goose and Aramich? I believe your mom will take P6, Griffith P7. Stewards will be looking at that one as they come down to the line. Goose ahead of Aramich, P8, Aramich, P9. Langley, P10, Adrian, P11, Iceberg, P12, Phoenix, P13, Marvy, P14. Platypus and Ormiston the run for P15. Don't think Ormiston quite got the run out of the corner that he needed, though. Will stay P16. Platypus will bring P15. Nate P and P18. Ricky Bobby P19 and Salinas with that drive-through penalty. P20 currently, but will drop back a few more positions. Silva will take the win in AM all by himself and showing, at least in the races that he has raced in so far, 2 out of the 3, that he is a dominant contender in the AM field. Peach P22, Nightwalker P2 in AM, Shuby P3 in AM, not quite close enough to get back onto that second spot in AM. Lingard will take home P4 in AM. Yakashok is P23, Giant P24, Christian B P25, P5 in AM. Player just behind will bring home P6 in AM, Kiss Army P7, Cave P8, Clint P9, but has Francisco immediately behind. The battles are not done yet. This is at least for overall position. Clint and the Mustang up ahead, then Francisco, then James Earl Jones. Francisco trying to get a better run out of the final corner. We'll see if it goes his way, though. Will not. Francisco will finish P28, James Earl Jones P29, Manelli P30, Clint P27, Bradzilla immediately behind. That was not Manelli, though. Either way, it will be Silth taking home the win. As your podium, Silth, Prieto, Ouroboros is once again a double podium for the Animus Racing team. Don't go anywhere just yet. We will be finding somebody to raid. Silva, P1 in AM, Nightwalker P2, Shuby, P3, your AM podium. Thank you all for tuning in. We're going to go find somebody to raid, maybe Trackalicious or something like that. No, they seem to be doing some testing. So I think we are actually going to go ahead and raid. Doesn't really seem to be too many people on right now. All right, well, we'll go ahead and raid Bag Chief. So, once again, thank you guys for tuning in, and go show Bag Chief some love.